Buying an audio equipment is not a straightforward process, especially if it's a speaker. AVR is a different story. For AVR, if you fix your budget, if you fix a particular brand, you can read certain online material, you can read reviews, and you can go and make a blind buy of an AVR. But for speakers, the same formula does not apply. Speakers depend a lot on the individual taste and preference. In this video, I'll talk about my journey of buying these wonderful speakers. And in the second half, I'll give you a comparison of the different floor standing speakers that are available in the market. So let's get started. Let's begin with my audition journey. I auditioned no less than 20 different speakers across a period of 6 months at maybe 10 different places. Out of all the audition places, auditioning at Best Buy was my favorite. You had all the speakers lined up and you can audition them all by just press of a button. I so wish that we had a setup like that here in India. Acoustics 5.0 were the first speaker that I ever auditioned, and the first audition was a home theater setup with a projector screen in front, and that audition blew me away. After that, I listened to that Acoustics 5.0 in a stereo setup too, and I was truly impressed with the sound quality that I heard there. At the beginning, all I was looking for was bookshelf speakers, and Polk S60 and Elac 5.2 and 6.2 caught my fancy. In my first trip to ProFX Bangalore, I got to audition S20, and when I heard them, I was so thrilled. I had never heard a complete sound from a speaker like that ever before. After auditioning the S20, the next to it was the KEF LS50. And when I auditioned LS50, I just felt that the AVR was not good enough to drive those LS50, because the sound coming from them wasn't really that enriching or fulfilling or that complete as it was from Polk S20. After these two, I auditioned RTi A3, and that sounded nowhere close to S20 or the LS50. After listening to the three for maybe 20-30 minutes, the store keeper or the salesman offered me to go upstairs and have an audition to the floor standing speakers. I wasn't really inclined to look for floor standing speakers, but hey, I was there in the shop and I was there to audition, so there was nothing wrong in auditioning the floor standing speakers. I went up, and there I saw the Polk S50. That was the first tower speaker he plugged into. I think it was Denon X2600 or 2500, one of the AVR. And when he played some song, it was a Bollywood song, I forgot S20 or LS50. I mean, those extra drivers from that tower speaker were making so much of a difference. I couldn't believe that an extra driver can be so impactful. Okay, after that, he plugged in the wire, or switched the wire to Polk S55, and that S55 made me forget the S50. It was so fantastic. I mean, I could hear the sound stage coming to me alive. I could hear the sound driving me all around the auditioning room, and the kind of satisfaction I felt listening to those S55s, unmatched. That moment, I knew that I'm listening to something very special. After that, salesman went a step further and he connected the S60 speakers, and I felt that S60 speakers were definitely a notch above S55s, but the sound signature from both of them were not one better than another. They were just two different sound signatures. And even though I liked S60, I could have never created a fault or faulted the sound that I was hearing from S55s. So I remember auditioning Elac F5 floor standing speakers. And in my opinion, that F5 speaker was the best speaker that I auditioned among all in my entire journey of auditioning. But then F5s were 3 times the cost, at least the 3 times the cost of S55s. Pioneer FS52, one of the highly regarded speakers in various community and considered the most affordable tower floor standing speakers. I really wanted to audition it, and when I auditioned, they just couldn't excite me. The sound signature, whatever that came out of FS52, just felt lifeless. Klipsch speakers were another similar experience. However, I tried to audition, I just couldn't like the sound signature that the Klipsch speakers gave out. So Klipsch wasn't really the kind of audio equipment that suited my taste. Out of all these auditions, the only speaker that I couldn't audition, though I wanted to, were Dali Zenser 5 and 7. They came highly recommended from my friend. I wanted to audition them, but with a lot of efforts, I just couldn't find those speakers to audition. And after all these auditions, and spending 6 months, I started getting something called an audition fatigue. There is always a limit to how many speakers you can audition. I just sat down and started figuring out the speakers that I'd liked. And from the list of all the auditions, Elac F5 was right at the top because how great that speaker was. Followed by S60 and then S55. When it came to comparing the value for money with the price tag, S55 speakers offered great value for money. So I went ahead and auditioned S55 again a couple of times just to ensure that I'm getting into the right speaker. And in one of the trips, I just made my decision. Now let's talk about an important question. If you are in the market to buy your floor standing speaker between 60 to 80,000 Indian rupees or around 600 to 800 US dollars, then what options you can explore? Let's look at the speaker that I have, Polk S55s. Fantastic speakers, 90 decibel of sensitivity, and they go as low as 32 Hertz. They have very strong specs to back up the great performance that the speakers have. Polk advertises about the power port a lot. I have no idea what difference the power port makes, but one benefit definitely is that I can place it anywhere without worrying about what's the gap from the wall and the speaker. We've got Wharfedale D240 speakers. Great looking floor standing speakers. I've auditioned them and I love the sound signature they produce. Had no complaints listening to those speakers, but remember, you got to have a very strong and powerful AVR to drive these speakers. These are 4 ohms speakers. Next is one of my favorite speakers through Audition, Polk RTi A7. These are probably one of the most complete towers you can get in this price range. These speakers can go as low as 20 Hertz, and I can tell you there are a lot of subwoofers out there in the market which can't go 20 Hertz. It's got 2 7-inch woofers, one mid-range speaker and a 1-inch tweeter. So overall, I believe this is a great speaker that you can look into. Next speaker for you to consider is the Acoustics 3050i. These are highly regarded and highly reviewed tower speakers, and in my audition I really got to know why it is highly regarded. The audio tone from this made me remember the first time I experienced tower speakers. This speaker, the only thing you got to keep in mind that please keep it at a distance from the wall because it's got a rear port. It's a 6 ohm speaker, so you got to have a very good AVR to drive these speakers to their full potential. Dali Oberon 5 is the new model launched by Dali speakers. 6 ohm speakers, 88 decibel sensitivity, so sensitive, which means they won't be as loud as the other speakers. I have not auditioned the Dali Oberon 5. Next in line is Paradigm Monitor 3000F. I have not auditioned these speakers, but from the looks of it, it does look like a pretty robust speaker. 8 ohms impedance, 91 decibel sensitivity. Looks a very good speaker on paper. Again, it's got a rear port, so ensure that if you're buying these speakers, you got to keep a distance from the wall. Next is the Polk S60. When I auditioned these S60s, they sounded better and different than S55s, and for an obvious reason. It has got 3, I think out of the 3, 2 are the woofers and 1 is mid-range driver, and the same 1-inch tweeter. There isn't really any difference in the tweeter sound signature, but the overall sound stage that it creates is better than what you can hear from S55s. Last speakers to talk about would be Elac Debut 6.2 floor standing speakers. They have F5.2 speaker as well. You could go with either one. The difference is in the driver size. These Elac speakers have 6 ohm impedance. Out of the three, two are the woofers of 6.5 inch. Third one is mid-range driver for 6.5 and a small 1-inch tweeter. And remember, this has 3 rear ports. So again, you got to keep in mind to have a distance from the wall. At the end of all this, I must tell you that the specifications or the reviews that you hear on speakers is kind of meaningless. And here I am reviewing on speakers. But yeah, it's a word of advice which might do a lot of good to you. So you can read the online reviews of how a speaker sounds or how a speaker performs, but there is no better judge or reviewer to buy a speaker than your own ears. So I'll highly recommend you to go and audition as many speakers as you can before making a buying decision for your speakers. Well, I hope you like this video. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'll be more than happy to answer. Till next time, you guys take care. See you next.